Hi, you're listening to Playing Out from the Bar. Please be aware this podcast contains strong language.
I'll just get my next beer, so I don't have to break mid podcast because I've kind of already got halfway through this one.
I'm going. Oh no, go on.
Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Only be 2 seconds.
Right, let's record some football chat.
Come in, everyone. The bar is back open. Forget about the cold weather outside. Grab a drink and join us by the open fire in the virtual bar. Although that might not make much sense if you're listening to this in July. But anyway, myself, Tricey and Dobby have reconvened in the bar for another session of talking football nonsense. Dobbs, I'll come to you first. How are you this evening? And perhaps equally as importantly, what have you ordered from the bar tonight?
Oh no, well, you've hyped up really the question around alcohol consumption.
It is a midweek, we should say.
It's one of them weeks for me again, I'm afraid. I'm on the Tesco apple and blackcurrant orange juice again.
That's all right.
Concentrated.
Double concentrated, just to keep you on the edge for.
No, I'm sorry. I did a Friday, Saturday, Sunday of having a couple of beers, and I just thought, I'm going to avoid it tonight. So, I'm sorry about that. But otherwise, I'm good. Cheers.
Good.
But good spirits.
Well,
I'm going along with the new government potential guidelines for April. Pubs with no beer.
Yeah,
so I'm preparing myself for that.
We're actually ahead of our time in that regard. You're bringing this podcast, putting us ahead of the.
That is a criminal offence. Pubs with no
disgrace,
beer,
isn't it?
It makes
Next
very little sense.
Swimming pools with no water. That's just ridiculous.
I know a few landlords who definitely will not be even considering that. Like, it's just not even an option.
You'll go up to the toilet and there'll be 3 people squeezing a cubicle, passing around a bottle of vodka.
School disco style.
It'll be it won't be bouncers checking the toilet for people doing Class A's. It'll be bouncers checking the toilets to see who's passing around a can. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Tricey, how are you, mate? I mean, I know we've already revealed it to each other, really, but I know that you've ordered something from the bar tonight.
Yep, I am on the Brewdog Lost, the one that's good for the environment, Planet First Lager, free from Brewdog. It came last week, so been having a few of them recently. I've got to say, it's pretty decent for free. Can't really grumble.
Oh, it's absolutely spot on. I'm on the Lost Lagers from Brewdog, and so thanks to Brewdog really for providing all of the alcohol that will be consumed on this podcast tonight for free. That's good, nice gesture from them, and I'm enjoying it as well. Trice, I've actually I'm down to I had 2 of them on Friday, and I'm finishing it off tonight. So yeah, I'll do a bit of housekeeping in a second. But does anyone have anything positive or negative that they want to share before we get started?
I'm just glad to be doing the podcast, to be honest, mate. I think it's. I messaged you both early on in the week, suffering a bit of burnout recently, so I think having a good release like this is good. And what are we? Are we the official 43rd best football podcast in Singapore? Is that right?
Well, I was going to come on to this as part of the housekeeping try, so I was never going to miss a chance to blow our trumpet, but. Just big news.
It's a good release for me, that, and obviously for the people of Singapore too.
Exactly, they're getting something out of this. We have had an email, listeners, to say that in the Apple Podcast chart performance for football podcasts, obviously we've broken the proverbial glass ceiling in the past week, because we're actually the 73rd most listened to in Singapore, but we're 47th in Canada. Which I think is just like, I'll take 47th in Canada. So shout out to all our Canadian brothers and sisters who've been listening so far.
To be fair, we don't know if there's only 47 podcasts that talk about football in Canada.
We're 47th. We've just joined at the end of the queue, but it's still a little claim for us.
I like that. 2 figures, wow. And Singapore as well, that's definitely worthy of a pre-season tour. Pre-season podcast tour for Series 3. We'll go over to Singapore. That's what they all do nowadays, don't they? Go over to Asia.
For some reason,
grow the fan base.
I don't know why this is, but in my mind, I've just assumed that you're responsible for our growth in Singapore, but maybe I'm just associating your time in South Korea quite incorrectly with whether that would have any bearing on how we're doing in Singapore. But I'm assuming that you're the reason for this boost in popularity.
Entirely that, yeah. I mean, sure, I'd like it if there was a little following.
You didn't meet anyone in Seoul who was like from Singapore and really into their football.
I can't, not off the top of my head. No, no, I don't think so. I'll take the credit though.
It made me laugh that day. Like when we started this, it was just like, well, it's still the same. We're still sat in each other's kitchens, just having a beer, really. But we're climbing up the rankings of football chat in Singapore.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, I'm all right. I'm glad to be doing the podcast again.
Yeah, good stuff, mate. I'd probably say the same because we had a little week off last week, and I missed it actually. It's become like a regular feature almost of the week now for me. So yeah, no, good to be back in the bar with you both. Dobby, do you have anything, mate, that you want to get off your chest?
I don't think so. I'm very much at a point where like, well, I keep saying it every week. It's like it's quite tough to pick out like single out positives and negatives when things are just quite repetitive.
Yeah, everything is just sort of blending into one at the moment.
Yeah, I think like you guys said though, the cricket over the weekend, that was quite a nice little treat to have on it.
Yeah,
Wake up on Saturday morning and lay in bed and just watch cricket, and same as well on Thursday and Friday. So yeah, I'll take that. That was a nice positive.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Definitely enjoyed the cricket over the weekend. And yeah, I'm with you on that, Trice, 100%. We're 232nd in the British charts, just for if anyone's keeping score on that. So, but you know, clearly our performance in Canada is setting the bench pretty high. Another piece of housekeeping I should mention. Am I right in saying, Tricey, that our American university team, Gonzaga, have kick-started their season since we last spoke? Am I right in that?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. From what I can see, they actually stream the games live on Twitter, but I think it's a time difference thing, so they're on in the middle of the night, really, for us. Two games, 2 defeats so far for the Zags, but don't worry, keep the faith. Zag United and stuff like that. So, you know, tricky start for the Zags, but they'll come good.
Two games, 2 defeats.
They did actually score a really. I know this sounds like really looking for the positives, but they scored an absolute belter of a goal. I think I put it on our Twitter. Lovely right-footed finish into the top corner was the highlight of one of the games which they lost, I think. So, I mean, there's room for improvement, but you know, still early. We're not switching allegiance yet, I don't think. So
we're not putting pressure on the manager just yet.
Although we will, we will do that because we've tried nice sort of supporting from afar type mentality, but we will turn if we need to.
Oh yeah, we need to bring some of that ruthless English fandom to Gonzaga, definitely. No, if they're live streaming games though, that I can get behind that. I think definitely at one point down the road we perhaps need to do an all-nighter and just live. Perhaps we could live stream ourselves watching the live stream. I'd be interested to see if that was as popular in Canada and Singapore as the podcast.
Maybe we need to like reconsider our position. Is the MLS where we need to be? Should we not be in the Canadian leagues? Maybe that's where.
I think we need to apologise. I know we said it previously, but when we had Jason in on and talking about American stuff, I said like one of the biggest barriers will be the young American players not making it in the European game. But Bleacher Report, like the American sports channel, they've been sharing loads of stuff recently. There's about 20 odd American under-20 players playing in the Champions League, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or in like top level European competition. Yeah. So yeah, maybe
that's
we're
good job. Good job we're not doing like a football podcast, or I need to know stuff like that.
Good job we weren't completely outdated in our approach to Jason on that special.
We just went out with an opinion that we've had for 25 years and stuck it out there, but didn't do much research. Yeah. Sorry, MLS.
Oh, I just got real visions of when Partridge was getting upset about the amount of the American guy in I'm Alan Partridge for some reason. I'll move on to the. Shall I have a brief whistle-stop tour to the social corner of the bar? Because this is, and to be honest, this is not really Twitter or Facebook specific, but
MySpace. Wow.
Bringing it back to Bebo tonight. This is Football Cliches tweeted last night. I don't know if either of you two saw, but Chris Coleman was the guest on Monday Night Football and selected his ultimate 11 of players from players he's managed, I'm assuming. But there was just some great reaction to this. Like, Javier Mascherano is one of the players selected in the team, and there's just the Chinese flag next to his name, and people were questioning, like, is Mascherano declared for China? Like, what's the reason for this? But no shot of the club that Coleman and Mascherano were at in China together. Joe Allen's made it in the team. Chris Gunter's got into his all-time 11. So, did you see this, Tommy? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this, no.
You will enjoy this, Trice. It's a good rundown of an 11. It's got Neville Southall in goal, Philippe Christianval from his Fulham days, Ashley Williams, Ben Davis, Chris Gunter, Javier Mascherano, Joe Allen, Ryan Giggs, and then a front three, bizarrely, of Aaron Ramsey, Alan Shearer with the Blackburn badge next to his name, and Gareth Bale.
Steve Bronxton, he's been harshly treated there, I think, to be honest.
Yeah,
he
that's
could be in
true.
contention.
I'd have liked to see him in as well. I must also mention quickly, this is the why I brought it up was because the top response to that team is the best tweet ever, which is from Johnny Blaine, and he just says, "Once drove Philippe Christianval to Ipswich, in brackets, no, I'm not a cabbie, and he brought me a twirl at the petrol station. I didn't even ask for one."
Wow. Oh, that's class. Just while we're on funny tweets as well, Trice, that's just reminded me of the one you shared with us the other day about the woman from Bolton who was a Bolton fan. How class was that?
Yeah, I think that's explicit content, isn't it? But essentially, she was offering out Bolton's new signing for a night of leisure at her house. But the main part of the story was that the dog was called Djorkaev. And he couldn't wait to meet this new Bolton player.
Did she tweet? She tweeted like, "I live in a 2 up, 2 down with my dog Djorkaev."
Yeah.
Like as if he was going to notice the dog and be like, "Really? I wasn't going to go round, but now the dog's really excited to meet me."
Yeah,
I'm sure she mentions 2 up, 2 down as well, which is just, I don't know, like why is that important? But yeah, Marcus Maddison, I think it was, wasn't it? So, but he's thrilled by that.
So this is the tweet, listeners. Mandy Sheridan responding on, I assume it's Bolton's official Facebook. She's put, "Welcome to the Whites Gorgeous. My name's Mandy. I'm 55 and live on my own in a 2 up, 2 down in Halliwell with my dog Djorkaev. I'm thinking we should meet up sometime. I don't normally like beards, especially ginger ones, but let's just say I've been with a man for a while now, and I've not been with a man for a while now, and I'm beyond feeling picky." Oh, great stuff.
I guess just for anyone who isn't familiar with the Bolton team of old, Djorkaev was an instrumental part of that, wasn't it?
Yuri Djorkaev, yeah, great player. I'm sure great dog for Mandy. So we're going to be chatting around a few areas around managers tonight, and one discussion point that I think we wanted to bring to the bar tonight, well, Tricey, you've actually sort of initialised this and brought it forward in the WhatsApp group. You've got a theory about football managers, so do you want to put it forward, and then we can sort of come to a collective decision on whether it's true or not, basically?
Yeah. So this is a type of thing that I chat to my mate about, Stephen, when we were getting a train to work, and just talk nonsense, really. What I think football management is an elitist thing. So, like, you've got Pep, Klopp, Mourinho, but then I think down the levels, I think maybe they're doing a disservice here. I think you've got a lot of the same. So, like, And I'm thinking, what is the main part of football management outside of the top six? And it has to be, in my opinion, motivation. Now, if you, my theory is that you could learn, you could go away and download FA manuals of different tactics. You could study a game, and then become more sort of tactically astute from that. But if you were a natural motivator, could you do a job as a Premier League manager? So, for example, someone who motivates a team at Tesco, can he or she do a successful job of motivating a squad of 18 League Two football players to finish 14th? That's, I don't know. And on the flip side of that, would a professional manager be able to use their skill set outside of football to manage? Is my questions to you both. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay.
I mean, I definitely like the idea of a motivational figure at Tesco, like running a football team. But I actually prefer the flip side, which is like
managers in supermarkets.
I want to see if Tony Pulis goes into the Scunthorpe Sainsbury's, will their profit margins increase within 12 months? That's what I want to find out. Will he be able to motivate the team to beyond what they could have achieved without him?
Everyone on the checkouts is like 6'3".
Very direct style of like packing your shopping, like no frills approach.
Yeah.
Go on,
Sorry. No, I was going to say, for like League Two, in my opinion, when you think about what's probably like the key skill set a manager needs to have, or attributes, tactical like nous is obviously quite. I'd say it's not a high priority, because essentially the style of play is basically one size fits all for 80%, isn't it? There's maybe only 20% where they're trying to break the mold and someone's trying to be a bit more unique. But so I think it's just a case of like, how can you, like you say, build good team morale, probably recognise who your stronger players are and make sure you're getting the best out of them and that the squad around them fits. So if you'll see in like League Two, League One, every couple of years there's breakout stars, isn't there, within different teams, and I guess it's all about how can you, within that team, if you've got 2 or 3 players that are just real quality, how can you keep them happy, make sure that they're playing in positions that are going to get the best out of them, and that the squad around them is going to like support them, really. And I think that's the key thing for me, really, in the lower divisions. Whereas obviously when you get up, you're talking about squads of quality, and you've got to then start managing and tactically, be a lot more hands-on and tactically determining how you're going to get more out of them. Whereas I think, I'd agree that in like the lower levels, it is just more about that more man management style of things. So I think I could agree.
I find it weird how football as an industry works. Like, it's one of the only few jobs really where you sort of have to have a decent. You've got to play, really. I know some managers haven't played at like top level, but you've still got to have played the game. But like, it's, like imagine hypothetically Sunderland's manager's position came up, and you saw the advert on LinkedIn, and it was like essential skills. It
will happen.
Needs to motivate the team, needs to be good with money, needs to plan accordingly, blah, blah, blah. And bonus, UEFA A licence, non-essential. Do you know? If you actually went for the skill set of the person, it'd be interesting to see. But there's a stigma that you've got to have been in the game and got to have played in the game. So like,
which I think that's
I'd
the
love
key
to see it as an
problem
experiment
with it, Trice. I agree. I think that is like this idea that, especially the idea that there's like that good players make good managers. Like, it's just such a false impression for me. Like, I mean, it's like saying a good. I think was it Arrigo Sacchi who said like a good jockey doesn't make a good racehorse, or something along those lines, because he like never played professionally, obviously, and then went and created one of the greatest AC Milan teams of all time. So there's like, there's definitely a point where I think you shouldn't have had to have played, really. There should be no correlation between being a good performer on the pitch and being a manager, and there's obviously a bias towards that. But then I also think I mean, you're talking about at the lower levels there. I think we've spoke on this podcast before about the potential influence of like Guardiola and Pochettino on teams in the lower leagues, and that over the last few years we've seen more like League Two teams try and play possession-based football that perhaps they wouldn't have 20 years ago. But I don't know. To be fair, I probably don't watch enough League Two to be able to definitively say, yeah, most clubs aren't playing like the vast majority could, for all I know, still be playing very direct football from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think when I look back over, because I've watched a fair bit of League One, League Two football probably over the last 5-10 years, and I can only think of a handful of times where I've maybe seen teams that have turned up and looked like they've had a bit of uniqueness to them, a bit of like an identity that they were trying to break the mould, and there is literally a handful of times, 9 times out of 10, you're talking two very similar teams just coming up against each other with two similar styles of play, really. And I think, yeah, so I think
that's my point. Sort of like down the lower leagues, they just play, the vast majority of them play percentage-based football. You know, the more times the ball is in the attacking third, the more chance you have of scoring, type thing. That's my. I agree with you there, Dobby. I can't really think of that many teams that have gone League Two, League One with sort of a different style. There's definitely sort of a one size fits all, I think, for outside the Prem. I would say.
But I think definitely, and I think even when you look a bit further up as well, I don't want to. It's tough sitting here when you're not a manager or you've not got any coaching experience, because I'm sure someone could come on straight away and shoot me down. But even when I reflect on like Leeds United on the last 15 years as my club, I think I've said to like you guys before, up until like Bielsa came in, really, everything just seemed to like all mould into one. And I know that was probably a bigger picture with the ownership situation, but managerial wise, I went through so many, and there did just seem to be nothing really kind. There was no uniqueness. No one came in, I didn't think, and imposed like a unique style of play. You could probably differentiate them all a little bit, but until Bielsa came in, then that probably opened my eyes to realise just how much somebody can coach and actually like to tactically change a team and change the direction of it and actually coach players and better players. Up until that point, I can't think of any real period in the last 10-15 years where I thought someone has come with that kind of unique identity. And I'm sure a lot of other people would say that as well, even that, and that's going up to the Championship as well. So I know it's different up there, and clubs come with a lot more baggage, so it's unfair to say. You could sit here all day and dig into it, but that's the first time I came to that realisation of like, wow, here's someone who's come in and the club comes with the assets it's got, the players are its assets, obviously, and he's then moulded them into like new players essentially, and completely redeveloped them. I think even looking a little bit further up, that'd be my example of that. So
I don't think that like you never hear much about. I can't remember a team that did well where there weren't good players, if that makes sense. I know it sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but can you remember many teams where a brilliant manager has managed a terrible team to like a successful period? It doesn't really happen, does it? So I think there's something in your theory, Trice. I think there's definitely the effect that managers have. Whilst I think the brilliant managers are brilliant, and I love studying that side of the game and the history of that side of the game and how it's developed, I'm really interested in. But I definitely think there's a theory about a lot of managers make zero difference virtually to performance. Like particularly the ones that are just going to set the team up in the way it would have been set up anyway. Like they're just not going to have them. You're not going to get much of a different impact from that. There was like one of the best books on football I've ever read. It's called Soccernomics, and in that there's a theory. It's written by a sports journalist and an economist. And in that, they come up with a theory where basically you could replace managers with, like, the difference would be not huge unless you get into the real great ones, like your Fergusons, Wengers, Cloughs, who actually got their sort of, with the resources they had, were able to punch above their weight. But most of them it's a muchness. So I think there's something in your theory, Trice, definitely.
The thing that got me thinking about this more was the sacking of Frank Lampard and realising that Chelsea had, however many managers since Abramovich took over in 2003. It must be, I don't know, 12, 13, I don't know, must be. Could there, and I've seen videos of their kit man and physio, I think he's actually, that Billy...
Oh, the Scottish bloke.
Yeah. Who's obviously, all the players love him. Now, he's been around the game long enough to, know how to set up a team, I presume. He's been around that environment. Could he do any worse, in my opinion? No, than any of those sort of ones that have been sacked after 6 months.
Yeah.
It'd motivate him. It'd certainly get him enjoying football. That I don't know. I just think it's
and
a bit of an elitist stigma.
Weirdly, the players know this, so the psychology is they become more attached to the people who are actually at the club long term, like the physio, the kit man, the cooks. They get probably more attached to them than they do the managers because they know it's like a disposable position.
Do you think that's why when you see Scunthorpe United being a great example when they were doing well in League One and Brian Laws was poached by Chef Wednesday, and rather than recruiting externally, they promoted Nigel Adkins from physio to manager? And I mean, there's been quite a few examples of that since, and probably before, and there've been relatively successful stories as well. And is it because it is someone coming in internally who everybody's got a lot of respect for? He knows the squad, he knows the personnel, and obviously Nigel Adkins went on to do a lot of great things. So he's got a background in management. So, and we spoke about all his kind of personal traits and his approach to positive mental attitude and stuff, which again probably supports our argument. But are they kind of examples of how people can, when they are recruiting internally from these physio positions, and then all of a sudden keep a club on course to achieve promotion like Nigel Adkins did, and then get them re-promoted to the Championship? Do you think that kind of supports that argument as well? And when we say, people who are when the players are attached to them and they've got that respect to them, it doesn't matter if they were the assistant coach, the physio, or whatever. That can work.
Yeah, I think we need to do a litmus test. Really, I think if I win the Euro Millions, I'll make Peter Swan an offer to buy Scunthorpe, and I will find the best motivator I can. Instantly sack the manager and see where we finish. That would be my thinking. See if we do any worse.
And if that doesn't
if
work,
we drop points, I'll bring in a proper manager.
Yeah. I think as well, just while we're still on this, and you look at some League Two squads, and you could probably look at them and pick out a player in a few, like Bolton, for example, big squad down there. They've just got Marcus Maddison, and they was talking about at the beginning, and he's obviously he's got quality. He was at the top end of League One with Peterborough, being approached by Championship clubs 3 years back. So that's a player there who has just got ability. And in League Two, if you've got someone who is just capable of keeping him motivated, keeping him focused, he's going to do the rest himself. What are you going to teach someone like that who's dropped down to that level, who's been playing in the game now for probably 10 years at a much higher level, pushing on Championship? The main focus, if you're the manager, if you're looking at someone to manage Bolton Wanderers, it's who's going to make sure that this we're going to get the best out of this lad by just keeping him on side, really, keeping him focused, and making sure the structure of the team supports him, really. And them things are essentially what you can align to, probably, like you say, a supermarket manager at the same time, isn't it? So I can completely see where the comparisons are there. That's not rocket science, is it? That is just basic management skills.
No, and also I have to say that this is more of a modern trend, but nowadays the managers that aren't even full managers, they're just sort of head coaches because they have no say in the recruitment process, which I think is actually filtering down throughout the football pyramid in England. I don't think it's just a Premier League thing anymore. These coaches, surely, to me, I don't know if it's because of the era I grew up watching football, but it just seems like that is such a big part of being a good manager, recruitment. I kind of think if you take that side of the job away, and there was another story in this Soccernomics book on the chapter about Do Managers Matter, where they said a top like Premier League manager. I don't think they named him, but one day he started a new job, went into the club office. It was his first job. And he just sat around because training had been already finished, and he just sat there and he didn't really know what to do. And he said, I got so bored I ended up phoning my mum just for something to do. And it's just like, there is something about, like, if you're not, I suppose you're coaching, you're on the training pitch and you're setting up your team, which is fair enough. But if that's all your job is, how much can you do? Like, how much of an impact can you have or change a club's fortunes long term? Probably very little, I'd say.
On transfers, it's one of them where if it pays off and the head coach, it pays off, it's, oh yeah, I wanted that player anyway. But if it doesn't pay off and the player's crap, it's, I had no say in saying that.
Yeah,
so that's where I think a lot of those head coaches are at.
Yeah,
that is true.
Take ownership of it. Just sort of like, you're not going to get Brian Clough anymore, are you? Saying to the chairman, "This is our budget for the year. This is what
that's
we're
what I
going to
want.
spend."
That's what I want, Trice. That's the era I'm craving for.
But in the Premier League, you can, the structure of clubs now is you are, obviously director of footballs are just as critical almost as like a manager. And in lots of instances, like you look at Liverpool, and I mean, when I look at Leeds from a personal point of view, that works really well, and that relationship works, and it's brilliant, and completely bought into that, and everyone around the club is. But then if I tried to think of that model being applied, say Scunthorpe in League Two, I just think, how is that applicable? Because if you're a director at football and it's basically like Moneyball, it's all analytical, isn't it? Essentially, trying to find players with certain traits and certain attributes, and what they've been performing at over the last 5 years. It's going to fit the style of play and the tactics that your manager's or your coach is trying to implement. That's not really, to me. I could be wrong, but I can't see how that's irrelevant at League Two, because, as we've kind of pointed out, are the head coaches and managers actually approaching it in that style of like, well, this is the kind of players that we need, this is the kind of style of play we're trying to implement here, so that means we need to go out and find a left back who's completed this many short sprints, this many long sprints, this many recoveries, because it surely should be at that level more of a case of a manager's awareness of who we can trust, who is going to like fill a gap for him in keeping quite a robust team, really, that's gonna do its job. If that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, no, definitely, Dobby. I think I agree with you. It's difficult because it's definitely a relationship that can work well. And to be honest, like, I'm kind of on both sides of the fence here. Like, I can completely get that. I love seeing the impact a new manager can make, and when they do something different tactically or recruitment-wise that has a genuine impact on a club. I love to see it because it's kind of what makes the game interesting in some ways. And there are like astute. You can see the difference between like an astute Premier League manager. I know they're the ones that keep getting the jobs, but like your Hodgsons, Pulis, Allardyce. I even like a few years ago I would have said even Pardew, who like they just know their way not to get relegated from that division, and like they're very street smart about it. And I think it's interesting seeing the way they go about the business, and it is the same for every league. Like there are those managers in League Two and in League One, those giants at that level. But yeah, I'm also supportive of Tricey's concept, and I just really want to see who'd be the best Premier League manager at managing a supermarket. That's what I want to the bottom of.
Sean Dyche, I would go for. I reckon he'd run a tight ship at Aldi.
Yeah, definitely.
He'd have good like encouragement, like when he's making his way up and down the aisles, like checking on staff. And he'd have good banter and interaction with the customers as well. So
I think your big hitters, Pep and Klopp, would be far too intense for your Sharons and stuff on the tills.
Pep would try and introduce like a really complex import system that just like fucked up for the first year. Like he couldn't really work it out, but give him a bit more of a budget and he might sort it out after a few years. We're going to move on now to our next segment of the evening in the bar, and this is quite a topical selection point for us because Tricey, I don't know if I'm allowed to announce this really, but you're getting married next year. You've set a date. That's the phrase, isn't it?
We have, yes.
you've set a date. So as a sort of tribute to your wedding, we're going to do set sort of a dream stag do of football managers. We're getting we're just about linking what's going on in our lives to the podcast. We're just straining it a bit, but so basically, boys, I want to know, for Tricey's wedding, we've booked the stag do. We can invite 3 or 4 football managers to join us on that flight. Who's making the cut? Who do you think would be good company for us? I'm not sure who I'd go with to kick us off. I mean, part of me wants to say Alan Pardew, but I think, as I mentioned him on the last episode, I'm not sure I can just keep bringing up Alan Pardew for every topic point. So help me out, Tricey. As it's your wedding, who do you want joining you? Who do you want looking over next to you on a big night on your stag do and thinking, yeah, I'm glad you're here?
So what you're saying? 4 can make the cut, can they? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, well, it depends. I suppose it's your stag do. You can have as many people there as just
you don't want you take over. There's a lot of egos, isn't there, in football management? They take over. I think. I think if I'm being off the top of my head, without no prep here, the 2 that would spring to mind are Louis van Gaal and Neil Warnock. I would want. I knew
Neil Warnock could crop up and be one of your selections.
Van Gaal, I just think, would be unreal crack. Like, get a few wines and beers down him. He'd be doing all sorts, and he'd be great value for money. Yeah. But I just think Warnock would give you that sort of real grumpiness that you might need if, like, Ryanair are running a few hours behind or whatever. Just, he'd be keeping stuff in order that way at the hotel, making sure everyone got a towel and stuff like that.
He's got a real no bullshit approach. Like, if anything was slightly off, he'd be on it straight away.
Yeah, if the package we bought at a bar said it had 20 beers and we actually got 15, like, I'd want Neil Warnock there to back me up and say, like, look, sort it out. That's a fucking disgrace, or whatever he'd say. I don't know. Yeah, I think they're probably the main 2.
What would he be like on a night out, though? Would you think he'd still have the crack? Or?
Well, he's 70 odd, isn't he? But I don't know. I just think I'd like him around the place. Like, if you could incorporate a sporting event, like, a day at the races or something, you'd want Warnock there.
Oh, he'd be good
for that.
Yeah.
I reckon Warnock could integrate well with, like, the rest of the people on the stag. So, like, I reckon a couple of hours into it, you'll notice he's probably, like, gone off with like three of the others, just getting up to mischief. Where you just lose them and then you don't see him until the next morning. And then your mates for years afterwards, like, oh yeah, Neil Warnock was great fun on that holiday. Like, would never have expected it from him.
Even if they've not met him before, they're like, that Neil's a sound bloke, isn't he? Like, he's experienced.
It's just getting around everybody, all the different little groups that are formed within the stag do.
And just from, like, I've heard them rumours about on like Under the Cosh and stuff like that, where they've said that he had a blank cheque for a red card and stuff like that, and it was 2 cheques, one for the club fine, one for Neil Warnock, written blank. I just think he'd be superb at, like, getting a kitty sorted and stuff like that. But obviously
he'll come out better.
He'd take a cup for himself, but he'd be the main man, just sort of.
You got that? So I'll chuck 50 quid in and I'll look after the drinks for the rest of the night.
Who's got the kitty? Neil's got it. Neil's got the kitty.
I think that'd be a good service, even knowing that it's obviously reward himself and give himself a good cut on that.
Yeah. That's a solid selection, actually. You know what, Trice, you've convinced me on that. Neil Warnock is definitely on the. He's coming along. Dobby, if you got anyone you want to put forward?
Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to think of, like, current managers. It's tough, isn't it? It really is. I like to go for someone same age group, but just for, like, the unknown. Maybe, like, someone really obscure, like Tony Mowbray. Like, what's Tony Mowbray going to bring? You just no idea, have you?
Do you mean, like, same age group as Neil Warnock? Or I thought you were meant the same age group as us. I was thinking, you're going to go for some young, clean-cut manager.
Oh, no. I think Neil, same age group as Neil Warnock, but I think if he's on the invite list, you're not a clue what you're going to get there, right? You're thinking, Tony Mowbray? I'm not sure about that. I've not been out with him before. Like, you're just really not sure what you're going to get. And then I think Tony Mowbray might be one of them people who's just a completely different person after 5 or 6 beers. And then you end up like almost admitting to him, like, look, I never thought that we'd have got on like this, but you actually really sound mad. And Tony's like, I know, like, just give me a chance. I think some people just be unconvinced by him and just refuse to get on board with like Tony Mowbray being at the Stag. Like, I'm not fucking hanging around with Tony Mowbray. Like, why is he here? But then there'll be some people who just take to him and like integrate him in, and I'm like, oh yeah, like. I could be wrong though. He could be, and I think similar for Mick McCarthy. But I think you've guaranteed more that Mick will just want to sink pints.
Yeah,
so,
Mick's a good consistent
with his
drinker.
island shorts on and like Barnsley tattoo.
yeah. Mick McCarthy's definitely, if it's an overnight thing, if the Stag do is a 2-nighter, you definitely know Mick McCarthy's beer with breakfast Saturday morning, and then also giving you a big like nudge on the shoulder when you've not got one, saying, "Come on, get a beer," and then you end up reluctantly going and getting your beer at 7 a.m. as well. But then you've earned the respect to Mick McCarthy then, and he knows like he can trust you for the rest of the Stag.
He knows you're a good lad. He knows
Yeah. You've passed the test, and Mick will be buying you drinks at 3 a.m. that night.
Mick McCarthy has got the previous history of falling out with people, but I feel like on Tricey Stag do, he'd know that like that was that's business. Is when he's there for leisure mode. He's relaxed.
I think only two. If we're going on 1 night or 2 nights as well, it's not long enough for him to piss anyone off or to like build a feud with anybody. You'd hope. Like if there was any tensions, it's going to come at the end, and everyone it would all be forgotten the morning after when you're all heading back home. So yeah, I think we could avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to throw. I really can't throw him into the mix now because I was going to suggest Roy Hodgson. But if I throw Roy Hodgson into the mix, this is the oldest Stag team. No, it's like the film. What is it with Morgan Freeman in?
Oh
it's
yeah,
like the
Las
old
Vegas.
boys. Las Vegas. It's turning into that Tricey Stag do. It's not quite what I imagined. I was imagining some sort of just a mad few nights in Ibiza or something, and now Roy Hodgson's there. But I just thought he's the sort of person who, you often go on trips. Particularly, I think of this for football away days. There's always some old bloke there who's like much older than the rest of the group, and he might not actually get involved in much of the narcotics or like heavy substance abuse, but he's always there. He's always in the background. Like he never leaves the group. You think he'll leave, and you turn around and he's still there, even though he's not really said a lot. And I mean, Roy's I think he's fluent in 5 languages, and he's a very cultured man. So I'm sure he'd be good to have him in some countries. But that was going to be my suggestion.
I don't think I could, for personal reasons, I don't think I could have had Roy Hodgson in, Jack, because in Euro 2016, Dobby, you'll be aware of this, we actually booked the quarter-final to go to watch England versus France in Paris.
Oh shit, did you really?
And then watched England lose to Iceland, and the last thing I wanted to do was go to France and watch Iceland-France. So I blame Roy Hodgson for that, and I don't think I'd be able to see past that in any sort of social scenario.
So you'd still be, if I brought him along, it would really be like a sour. It would start the Stag do on a real sour note. Like you're just glaring across at Roy, thinking.
Why was Harry Kane on corners, Roy?
It'd be like Jesus off Gavin and Stacey. No one even wanted you to here tonight, Roy. We had to make that T-shirt last minute.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's sort of looking around confused.
Yeah.
What about? I was looking at some of the young managers that have entered the game, some of the ex-players. Is there any of them that stand out you'd maybe want on your Stag? Thinking like Harry Kewell, Ian Evatt, who else? Alex Revel is a manager now. Bloody hell. Obviously Arteta as well. Russell Martin, can remember him? Darren Moore. Any of them that you'd fancy getting along? Bit of young blood to the party.
Yeah, I'd take Darren Moore. I wouldn't want one of the big hitters like Gerrard or Lampard. I just think, because they don't meet your heroes, don't they? And I think they'd be sort of I'd much rather have a Robbie Savage or, you know, I know they're not a manager, but that's from that era. If you go for the
like
big
a
hitter,
mid-ranking Premier League player.
yeah,
as opposed to like,
they've still got the stories then, haven't they? Like, you
Yeah.
know, someone like a Muzzy it or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas like Gerrard and Lampard are two sort of winner intense, and I just don't think I'd get on with them really. Don't know. I think the
You need
7-year-old in me would be quite disappointed at that, but
Yeah.
apparently
need a-
Gerrard's good on a night out, but remains to be seen, I guess.
yeah, but he's Gerrard though, isn't he? He's like one of the icons from when you were growing up. Like I don't know. I just
You feel a bit more composed and get more out of Ian Evatt.
yeah, yeah,
That's what we need.
yeah.
I mean, are we? Is no one have it? I just think that Alan
I'll
Pardew
take-
might provide something as well. I'm going to keep throwing his name into the mix. Like, just
He'd be Flash, definitely, wouldn't he? And I wouldn't.
He'd have all like
get
the
his wallets
designer
out
gear
and-
at like you know the
yeah.
airport when someone's brought a bag that's a bit too expensive for what the journey entails. Like, or he's just he's got some slightly odd travelling gear. I just
What
can
about-
imagine that.
What about Gareth Ainsworth? We've seen him. He's still rocking the rocker hair, hasn't he? He likes to get a
Yeah.
leather jacket out. So is he? Would he really buy into the Stag do you think? And
I think it was, yeah.
I
actually.
think he'd demand it to be like a Scandinavian country that we'd be going to. I don't think he'd be up for like Ibiza or
I think he'd be. I think
party
Gareth Ainsworth would be
destination.
too polite to say he doesn't want to go in a certain club, but when you're in there with him, you can just
He's
tell
mental,
he's not. He's not
yeah.
really. If he goes to the right place, you're going to get a lot out of him. If you go somewhere he doesn't want to be, he's going to be too polite to say no. I'm not offended. He'll just stand there with a bit of an uneasy look on himself, and you know he's just not enjoying the R&B music, and he's there. He's happy to be there. A bit of an awkward smile, but really he wants to be 3 doors down at like the heavy metal club. And if
Yeah.
you get him in there, he's going to be absolutely.
when
like,
when
loving
you
a
offer
head
to
thrashing.
go there later in the night, he suddenly perks up massively. And he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Well, let's go.
The other one I was going to suggest or ask the question of, what about Lee Bowyer? Obviously, he's got a bit previous, hasn't he, with things getting out of hand on nights out. So,
What a way to kick off the introduction. I love it how Tricey's probably considering him more though than Roy Hodgson. Like, it's like Roy
predictability.
Hodgson, no chance, but Lee Bowyer, well, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to keep a close eye on him, wouldn't you? It's sort of similar to Joey Barton in that, like, you wouldn't want to take your eye off him. Just if he's having a fight with the local police or whatever. Just,
yeah.
I'm liking. To be honest, I'm liking what Neil Warnock brings. I'm liking what Van Gaal brings. I'm liking what Mick McCarthy brings. So one more, I think it probably, I'd sway towards.
Steve Evans. Benidorm,
Left
Steve
field
Evans.
selection. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
There you go.
Benidorm, you've got
Yes.
Steve Evans.
If you had that
so-
group in Benidorm there, if you had Warnock, Mick McCarthy, Steve Evans,
Van Gaal.
and Van Gaal in Benidorm,
Yeah, I
That's-
like that.
that's going to
Yeah.
be carnage.
I feel it'd be good to crack Steve Evans, but also like, yeah, he'd have to be a short stint. I don't think you could put up with him for a week, would you? Well, you couldn't
Yeah.
necessarily put up with Warnock, Mick McCarthy, Van Gaal. You couldn't put up with all of them for a week. So 2 days in Benidorm or Eastern Europe somewhere, I think that'd be perfect for them. Yeah.
If you integrate him with a bit of a younger crowd as well, I think you get a lot out of them as well. I think it'll,
Yeah, they can
it'll
mix
bring
it.
the best out of everybody as well.
Mine-
If there was a group on the Stag do.
My only issue with this party so far is I can't see Van Gaal flying like Jet 2 or
Do you think he's like a
budget
maybe.
airline, but maybe we could convince him. Maybe I've underestimated his like.
He could drive it though, couldn't he? I guess he's mainland Europe.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're happy with that choice, then it's your that we'll back you on that.
Well, let's we've got a few extra invites if we can come up with some. Maybe listeners can chirp in with who we think's a good alternative.
Would you
Probably get rid of Steve Evans if we can, but
would you not consider Adkins based on his positive spirit? I can just imagine Adkins sort of like, if the flight was cancelled or we were all a bit pissed off, like Adkins would just be the one to like cheer us back up and like, come on lads, let's go have a pint.
yeah. I mean, obviously love the bloke and his positivity, but I think in that situation I'd rather have Neil Warnock swearing than
Yeah.
positivity. I'd rather I'd rather listen to Neil Warnock say every summer they're like this. He's missed every summer. Like,
Yeah. Just thinking about it, I'd watch a TV programme if it was similar to like The Trip with Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon, but instead it was Warnock, Steve Evans, Mick McCarthy and Louis Van Gaal just going around all the party resorts of Europe. I'd watch that. That'd be a great show.
They're doing impressions of like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Sitting like sipping the best wine in Europe and eating at Michelin star restaurants. Yeah, I mean, if you don't do it, Sky will.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, to me, that sounds like the perfect stag do, Trice. I can't see any issue with either organising that or people who are invited accepting their invites. So
I think just get them invited. Let's see what they want to do.
See what happens. It's almost becoming a regular feature in the show. We have a sort of weekly quiz. So I'll introduce, playing out from the bar's own version of John Humphreys, the Quizmaster General, Lewis Trice. So I'm handing over the reins now to you, Trice, for you to step back into the quiz hot seat and put me and Dobby to the test.
It's just a bit light-hearted, isn't it? I thought, keep us busy. Basically, you can't not love a weird manager meltdown in the post-match conference. So the concept of this game is I'm going to give you a quote, and it's going to be fastest finger first from you two to just shout out the answer. So, for example, if I said, I would love it if we beat them, you would go, Kevin Keegan. Yeah. But obviously you're going to have to be rapid because you're against each other.
Okay.
So there's nine questions here. So yeah, do you want to get?
Yeah.
Do you want to get into it?
I'm happy, mate.
Let's go for it.
Dobby's clearly happy that we're against each other in this competitive element.
Yeah.
I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have like loads of gadgets here, so you could have a little buzzer. Maybe, Jack, you can test your editing skills and see what you've got there.
Yeah, no, I like the sound of that. Yeah.
So maybe just I don't know. We'll go for a university challenge style, like Lewis, Jack. Does that make sense?
Do I have to? Am I buzzing myself in, or am I just saying an answer?
You buzzing it. You've got to buzz in. Yeah.
So you got to say you can have a Northumbria Uni, Lacey, and then make a noise. I mean, do we have to make a noise, or can we just say the answer?
Can I do like
Dobby, are you comfortable making noises?
I was going to do like a budgie call down there.
You can do that, yeah. Do that.
Can we hear?
Oh, that's good. I can't compete with that. That's
super.
Quality.
Is that a budgie call?
Jack, if you haven't got a noise, then you can just shout out. I'm not bothered really. You decide amongst yourselves.
That's just what Humphreys would say.
Just make a loud grunt or something.
Yeah, I'll just go, like I'm hitting a tennis ball on a stretch.
So they're ranging in different abilities, but okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
First question. He could have been killed.
Oh, bzz. Alex Ferguson.
Yes, correct. Point to you, Jack.
Who could have been killed?
Robin Van Persie, wasn't it? When Ashley Williams smashed the ball at his head. He didn't really, barely, he just kicked a ball at his head and he was like, he could have been killed. Like, a complete overreaction from Ferguson. Okay.
Just for housekeeping, if you buzz in and you get it wrong, you will be it will go over to the other person.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Let's talk about facts.
Rafa Benitez.
Yeah, true. A point each.
Fantastic.
You are an ostrich. I'm going to go Dobby first.
Dobby beat me to that. He did beat me to that.
Nigel Pearson.
Yeah, 2-1. So show this to Big Sam.
Bzz. Jose Mourinho.
Ooh, Jack, you're wrong there. Dobby, it goes to you.
Dobby's too quick.
So show this to Big Sam. I'm gonna have to take a guess on Guardiola.
No, it's actually Louis van Gaal in his long balls
Oh
run.
yeah, when he held up the formation sheet, didn't he? Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
So yeah, still 2-2. Oh no, 2-1 to Jack. Is that sorry?
No,
yeah.
I think
No, no.
Dobby's in
2-1
front.
Dobby.
2-1.
2-1 Dobby.
Whoa, wow,
Sack the
corruption.
quizmaster.
Good old Humphrey.
This one, okay. They only had 2 shots at goal. One was a penalty. The other was a shot at our keeper save. Which decision are we talking about? Let's not take the piss here.
Bzz. Roy Hodgson.
Yes, Jack.
Ah,
2-2.
shit.
I love
Yeah.
that foul-mouthed rant. That's playing us out at the end of this episode. That's a work of art. That's why I want him on the Stag do. Just that. Easy to lose his temper.
A real slip of character, that from Roy.
It was brilliant.
Okay. I don't know how often I have to say it. You pick the 12:30 kickoff. Not you personally, but you, the media. Dobby.
I'm gonna go for Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, 3-2.
Yeah, nice.
Ask the referees, don't ask me. Ask Mike Riley and the guys in VAR. Don't ask me. We tried to do our job. Go on, Dobby.
I'm gonna buzz in there. I'm gonna go Mourinho.
No. Go on, Jack. Chuck a guess in there.
I'm struggling on this one. I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to say, who mentioned Mike Riley by name? That's like a real weird thing to do. I'm going to say Brendan Rodgers.
It's Pep.
Shit.
So is that, what's this, 3-2 to Dobby? Is that, yeah?
Yeah.
We were absolutely freaking hopeless the other night. We were absolutely hopeless. Absolute shite we were.
Oh, Steve Bruce.
Yes, Jack. Right, last
right.
one.
Decider.
Yeah.
All this, can I
All
just say,
plays well.
all this tension, and in a minute I'm just going to Tommy's buzzer is just going to completely spike the tension. Sorry, go on, George.
Sorry, I have to compose myself a little bit. 'Cause it does tickle me, this quote. The facilities we got changed in were an absolute disgrace today. I wouldn't have put animals in it.
Oh,
I'm getting an attempt of a whistle from Dobby, so go on.
I remember it. It was at Crystal Palace away, wasn't it? I think. I can't remember who said it though. Oh no, it was Stoke away. It was Stoke away.
Go on.
Warnock, Stoke away.
Yeah, Dobby. Take
Yes.
the victory 4-3.
Oh,
Thank you for playing Manager Rant quiz.
I knew it was a. You know, I randomly knew that was a tunnel in the corner. I don't know how on earth. Stoke's got the tunnel that's in the corner, and so the Crystal Palace.
So you
I
went
don't know
for
what.
Palace, but yeah.
But then I
that makes sense.
remembered it was Warnock and Stoke.
Warnock's like not bothered about aesthetics normally, so it's a weird complaint for him to make. I wonder what had riled him up about.
Well, check the clip out because that is gold. That is superb. He's claiming there's like sewage water coming through in a porta cabin.
Don't leave your shoes on the floor, lads, when we go out.
Yeah, stuff like that. But what I found interesting looking through these though when I was doing my research is just like that Nigel Pearson one, You Are an Ostrich. It was just complete. He was a weird manager, wasn't he? He was a strange guy.
That was nuts. It was just like out of all the things to make, and it's like, and then he just sort of his defense line after that was to the journalist was just him saying, "Well, is your head in the sand?"
Yeah.
Your head looks like it's in the sand. It's like it's kind of a good tactic for Pearson to use, because like, what do you say to that? It's like you can't just say, "No, my head's not in the sand, Nigel," because that's insane.
The best thing that came from that was the clip from Twitter, like a couple of months after, some lads who'd seen him out like outside his local pub across the road and were filming him and just shouting, "Nigel, are you an ostrich? Are you an ostrich, Nigel?" For like 30 seconds, just relentlessly, as Nigel Pearson was walking along, like about to walk into the pub across the road.
Strange man.
I've never heard it as an insult any other time. That's like the only. I wonder where he got it from. If he didn't come up with that, that's insane.
He asked the reporter though, doesn't he? Like, are Are you flexible enough to put your head in the
Yeah,
sand?
that's it. Are you flexible?
My presumption would be no.
That's it. That's the best line in it. He's like a school teacher, like asking a kid stupid question.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Is he managing at the moment?
I don't know.
No, I think he's not come back from his spell in Belgium. His spell in Belgium ended, and then he's with Watford, wasn't he? I was going to just add, like, it didn't come up in Tricey's quiz, but had it of we'd have known Dobby that once again for some reason keep coming back to Alan Pardew, but one of his favourite things in post-match interviews with Newcastle was to blame the opposition pitch if away from home. And he'd say like, if we've done well, it'd be like, well, we've come here and we've done well on a tricky pitch, and he used this phrase, Trice, tricky pitch, literally about 6 times during the course of his spell at Newcastle. Like every now and again, if we had a slightly difficult away game, I think Burnley was a classic example. Like it was a tricky pitch. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, Jack. But in the words of Alan Pardew, Jack, stop talking about Alan Pardew. In the words of Alan Pardew, stop talking about Alan Pardew. You're never going to meet him.
Never going to meet him. Also, just finally, before we move on, he did once blame a lack of transfer activity at Newcastle on the fact that everyone was watching the London Olympics. So I just have to mention that before we move on.
We didn't.
He did, honestly. And he also said that once he complained because we were playing Chelsea and he didn't like it because we played in the Europa League on a Thursday. The game was played on a Saturday, which was unusual because the game had to be played on a Saturday because the Notting Hill Carnival was in London on the Sunday. So he blamed the Notting Hill Carnival on Newcastle's defeat.
Wow.
But, yeah, good, great stuff. And cheers for that, Trice. I enjoyed that quiz. So for the last part of our show in the bar tonight, we're going to just have a little check-in with some of our listener correspondence. Tricey, you've put the feelers out, haven't you, for some of our listeners' favourite managers or potential encounters with managers, should I say. So have we got anything to get stuck into?
Yeah, so I put out, we want to know your best ever manager, the most underrated manager, and then the manager you could imagine being friends with and having a pint with. And we've got some interesting correspondence, I think. Go on, Dobby, you tee us up for that.
Yeah, one of the standout ones for me was a friend of mine, Nick, who actually responded, mentioning I think his favourite was Brian McDermott. Well, no, was his favourite?
His favourite was Steve Coppell.
Sorry, that was
Greatest
it.
ever Steve Coppell.
That was it. Sorry, his favourite is
confusion between bald Reading managers of Steve Coppell and Brian McDermott.
Yeah, best Steve Coppell, most underrated Brian McDermott, and then to go for a drink with, who was that?
Alan Pardew, but he's put Alan Pardiola.
Well, I'm obviously completely on board with that drink. Nick
I'd have
Alan Pardew would be the most southern night out I could imagine.
Yeah. An absolute brain freeze then, but yeah, it was. You can't get more Reading than that, can you?
That is great. Yeah, that's a night out in Windsor by the Thames.
Yeah,
Alan Pardew and Nick.
That's just wine bars, isn't it? That's not going. You're not going in anywhere for £2 pints on that night out. But that's. I did make me think. Like, I forgot about Steve Coppell, and like I wonder how he's regarded. Like in Reading, because obviously he had such a great stint with Reading, didn't he? Like, do you think
he was
down
great,
there they still like proper adore him, and they just think like, oh, just what a time that was? We'll have to ask Nick for a bit more information on that, because I genuinely forgot about that. But I know I remember his affection for Brian McDermott, because when we were living together at uni, I think that was when McDermott had just come to Leeds, so Nick started this big, like, huge affection for him because it's time at Reading, and like everybody loved him at Reading, like he absolutely adored him, and obviously he came to Leeds and was just getting treated like shit. But yeah, I just had too much involvement with Reading FC that year for a northern person.
To normal.
Yeah, like I just seemed to know just so much about Reading. Funnily enough, actually, just before we move on from that. that just reminded me. You know, when we was talking about the away day episodes, me and Nick both being like a Leeds and Reading fan and being in the same division. We managed to get to a couple of the games, and one of them was at Ellen Road on a Tuesday night, and we was in Newcastle.
I said we needed to mention this, but yeah.
And so it was Tuesday night at Ellen Road. We was in Newcastle, so we scheduled to get the train down and then obviously watch the game and get the train back. We're running late. We get to the train station. Train's on the platform. Rather than get on the train, we decided to run into Sainsbury's to grab beers because we felt we needed beers for the train. Came back out. The train had obviously gone. So then we had to get a later train and pay more money for it. So on the train, we decided to do the Centurion Challenge. You know, where you do a shot of beer every minute for 100 minutes. So we did that on the way down to Leeds. We didn't finish it, so we had to sit on the platform because the train was probably just short of 100 minutes. So we had to sit on the platform for the last 10 minutes and just finish off doing these shots. And then went for a few more pints and then went to the game. And it was a Tuesday night, and it was just me and him, and we was in the different ends. There was probably like 300 Reading fans, so we went in there with them, and Leeds were shit at the time. There's probably like 20,000 Leeds fans. It was just miserable, and I remember just being stood there, just like hammered because of the amount of drinking we were doing on the train, just on my own. And it was probably like, it was just such a weird anticlimax because with this big build-up and a lot of drinking to then just be in Leeds on a Tuesday night watching Leeds v Reading on my own, just absolutely hammered. But yeah, so no, cheers for that, Nick. That did make me laugh seeing that, and did make me think of the amount of Reading FC that I had in my life back then.
What I was going to say, Dobby, is I'll say what I said at the time. I think it's the fatal error you made is just not getting on the train that you were booked on, that was completely organising your whole night like that. As soon as you decided not to get that, just to go to Sainsbury's, that's where it fell down.
We knew it was so fun. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have made that decision before. You're at a crossroads, go get some beers, or get on the train you're meant to get on, and you decide to go get the beers and just hope that time stands still in that 10 minutes, and that the train driver's going to be like, "It's all right, wait for them two lads."
He's like, "See that?
I don't know why
see
we
those
were
two in
shocked.
Sainsbury's. They've got a single down to Leeds."
I don't know why we were shocked when we came out and it was gone. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I went on a bit there, but I thought that just tied in quite nicely with our stories from the other day as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That was good. I think that was a fitting away day story. It's a classic playing out from the bar away day story. Tricey, have we got any other correspondence that we want to mention this week?
Yeah, we got some more from Simon, actually. I know he's a long-time listener and he's actually provided us with some good content before. He has done sort of a big email, but I'm gonna summarise it. He was at a lunch, like a business lunch at the Lowry in Manchester, and Chelsea were playing Blackburn and using that as a pre-match meal, and basically he was in the lift with Mourinho and got a bit starstruck and didn't know what to say, so just asked him, "Are you here for the Chelsea match?" And he said Mourinho just sort of made a Portuguese grunt at him and just sort of like, "Who the hell is this fucking moron?"
Love that.
But it did make me think though, and sort of cheers for sending that in, Simon. And it made me think of a time I actually met Arsene. Well, I sort of not met him, but was in the same room as Arsene Wenger. It was when Hull were in the Premier League and Arsenal stayed at Forest Pines Hotel. And my dad had a
classic away day.
Yeah, for the Hull fixture.
Visiting Hull teams.
Yeah. My dad's a member at the gym there, and he had a free pass. And I looked over when I was on the bike, and Arsene Wenger's on the cross trainers,
Wow.
3 people down. But he had this aura about him, I don't know. You best not sort of disturb my zen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost like this was part of his match day prep type thing, and it was funny because it's quite how do I put this nicely? It's quite a gym with elderly members, I would say.
Yeah.
And it became a bit of like I got the vibe that there's a few of the older boys there were sort of tensing up near him, like, this is my gym ass, and you're not coming here. And
Squaring up to it.
yeah, and I just like now I would go up to him and just sort of say, "You're right, Arson. How's things?"
Yeah.
But
Are you with for the Arsenal match?
yeah, shut up. You with the Arsenal game?
Tricey, that star reminded me of. Do you remember our friend Josh, who isn't a football fan at all, really, and was away on holiday in Scotland? Yeah. I can't remember it exactly, but he was on holiday in Scotland, wasn't he, with his dad? They go there every year, and there was at this hotel resort that they stay at. I can't remember whereabouts it is, but he came back to school. He was only about in year 9 or 10 at the time, and he's like, I met the Man United team the other day. I was staying at the same hotel as them. Did he show us a photo? I can't remember. And but it basically turned out that he was staying in the same hotel as Man United. Sir Alex Ferguson was there. I think he had no idea who they were. He'd met Sir Alex Ferguson. I think he showed Bobby Charlton somewhere like around the hotel, or like showed him to a certain room or something, and he had no idea who he was because he's not a football fan. And then his dad had to tell him, like, "Do you know who you were just talking to? Like, do you know who you just escorted somewhere?" Like, around? And he was like, "I just came to school, told us," and he had no idea. He just told us because he knew that we'd be interested. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I met this," and it just showed us a photo. It was like, "How do you not know who they are?"
Bobby Charlton. So like.
Yeah,
but the thing is, like, imagine Bobby Charlton's life. To be fair, he'd have probably found that quite refreshing. He must be sick of people talking to him about 66. It must be like sort of not the norm for him to talk to someone who like literally just treating him like any random person.
He said he just thought it was like a random old bloke who couldn't find the restaurant at the hotel. Yeah, super.
Talking to a World Cup winner.
And like I remember him casually dropping like, "Oh yeah, I saw Man United team," and I was thinking like, "Well, this must be like the youth team or something." And I went like, I thought I'd push the boat out to him and say like, "Oh, how many? Who was there?" And he was just like, "Oh, that Ronaldo was there." What?
That Ronaldo geezer.
That Ronaldo chap, I think his name was. Yeah, he was there.
Oh, brilliant! I don't think I've had any encounters with managers, so none that seem fitting to share anyway.
We need. That leads us down a great road, because I thought, for perhaps not for our next episode, but for an episode in the future, we should definitely do encounters with people within football, whether they're players, managers, officials, because I've got a couple that I'd like to bring up.
Yeah,
but,
they are always a good one. Like a lot of people do have some good stories to help lift. That's class. Oh, I guess just before we move on from the correspondence section, another bit of feedback I had from my stepdad, actually. He's listening to the podcast at the minute, but he's quite a few episodes behind, so he says he's not really sure where this fits in, but we did mention on a previous episode about fans and fan chants, and I think, Tricey, you pointed out about how Man United and Liverpool seem to be quite creative, and they actually,
I think there was something in that theory, actually.
Produce some good stuff, and my stepdad's actually a well-travelled Man United fan in his past life before he became a settled down adult, and he said actually for Man United, there's a guy who goes by the name of Pete Boyle, who's basically a Man United. He says there's like a hierarchy, and this guy is like the number one songwriter for Man United. So everyone knows who he is around Manchester, and if you go to the games, you're aware of who he is. And before games, what Pete Boyle will do is, he's the one who creates the chants, comes up with them, and then he'll go around all the different bars and pubs, and he'll just stand on a table or a chair and just get them going and get everybody else into them.
Oh, what, like a warm-up gig?
Yeah, so like before the game, he'll just go. He'll go. So he'll just go in the pub and he'll stand up and he'll be like, he'll get the chant going, and then everyone will get on board with it, and then he might go around, do the rounds, and do a couple of other pubs as well. So it obviously spreads around. So then, come 3:00, you've had 10 different pubs in Manchester who've maybe heard it. So once someone gets it going, it obviously picks up. So he said that's one, and I'm guessing that's similar with other places as well. But it's interesting that it's this one guy who's kind of like known by name, and people, like he said, there's quite a hierarchy, and everyone recognises him as like being the top song creator at Man United. And he did say actually, he said he was telling me about a few situations, and he said there was a time when he was on a plane back from a European away day, and the guy stood up and started chanting a Ronaldo song. And before the end of the journey, the whole plane was like singing it, and then to this day, the song still gets sung as well. So he said he was there for the creation of the song on an aeroplane back from a European away day. So there's a little bit of feedback on the creation of some chants.
That's
really
I
interesting.
love that. I love the idea of the role of there being like a chief chanter,
Song influencer,
yeah. It's just like if you're writing the chants, that's the job I want. I mean, I know there's no, like, obviously financial benefit perhaps, but there's certainly like credit amongst your peers, and I can imagine that'd be quite rewarding on the terraces. And imagine if, like, that's a bit mad. A chant you've created was suddenly been sung by tens of thousands of people at, like, on Stretford End or at the Gallagher End, or on the Cop at Anfield. It's like that's just unbelievable. That would just blow my mind. So I'm interested to know how that works, Dobby, and the breakdown of the hierarchy is quite interesting.
When lockdown's lifted, Jack's going to be round the streets of Newcastle, isn't he? Mikel Merino getting that one.
Do you think that one's got legs? I don't know if anyone warm to that one. I've
Which
had
one was
that
that
one
again?
I've had that one in my locker for years. I actually
the Blondie
wrote
one, was it?
I wrote an article about Mikel Merino not long after he'd signed, and actually like fast forwarded it to "Soon we'll all be chanting," and then put in the chant, thinking this will get it going. But
Which one was that again, Jack? What was it too?
so it was the tune of Blondie's Maria. So it was like Merino and then Mikel Merino. But it needs a sort of verse.
Was it the one that had a line and it didn't rhyme?
Well,
I can't remember. There was one where it just ended really bluntly.
I think there was the Richarlison "She's Electric" one from Everton that I just completely missed the tempo of. Like, it's quite hard when you're doing it on your own. You can't getting the flow of it is quite difficult. So but
you can't knock you. They're more creative than I would have been.
I've given it a go. I'm hoping that Martin Poom one gets started on at Derby. Have we had any more feedback on that, Trice? Is there any like offering to take that chant and run with it, or?
No. We've had a like on Twitter from the Derby podcast. Other than that,
That's it. That's where it ends.
We haven't got fans in stadium, so it's not fair to judge, really.
That is true. Yeah. Maybe I need to be thinking of Canadian chants. That's clearly where our fan base is these days anyway. Yeah, good stuff. Right, well, I think we've come to a natural end of the chat in the bar tonight. I'm going to have to think of some more chants to try and impress you boys next week. Thanks, Trice. Thanks, Dobby. And I'll see you next week. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Jack.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Roy, satisfying day at the office for you?
Yes, very. I thought we played very well. We were rocked back by another decision which I find hard to accept, but luckily... Which one do you think?
I'm asking you.
No, well, I'll leave it then. If you're going to be tricky like that, I won't even bother to carry on. Shall we? Let's stop it here, shall we? I mean, if you're going to be tricky with your questions.
No, I'm genuinely
asking which one. Start again. Which one? Well, how many were there? They only had 2 shots at goal. One was a penalty and one was a striker goal our goalkeeper saved. So what decision are we talking about?
Okay.
So let's not take the piss here.
I certainly wasn't.
Well, I think you are, but there you are.
I wasn't.
Well, we'll start again, shall we? Or else you can use that if you want.
No, I don't think they'll want that.
Start again.
It was a genuine question.
Well, I won't mention it then. There wasn't a fucking penalty in the game. There wasn't one of those ridiculous situations in the game. That didn't happen. So let's just talk about our performance.
Roy, a satisfying day at the office?
Yeah, I thought we played very well.
First half, particularly, it was a pretty even contest, did you not feel?
Not particularly, no. I thought we had the better of the first half, and I thought we had clearly the better of the second half.
Any decisions in the game that you weren't happy with?
No, we've already been through that. We went through that before you've restarted the interview, so I'm not prepared to talk about decisions. If people who watch the television can't see what decisions I'm talking about, then let's forget about it.